Hey guys, it's your buddy Choppadong here, and we're going to do a little bit of MLB DFS, of course, as we do pretty much every day. Sometimes my VIPs get Domination Station Optimizer setup videos where we go a little bit more in depth into the leverage stacks and all that good stuff. But when I put stuff out this early, I usually don't have ownership reports and things that I need to actually build those leverage stacks on my own. So I have to kind of stick to the process, set up the early slate stuff, and then we'll wait for the other stuff to come out a little bit down the road. So if you want that down the road type stuff, you need to be a VIP. Really simple. DFSarmy.com, one-stop shopping, all things daily fantasy sports. And I'm a senior coach and contributor there. I spend a lot of one-on-one time with people, a lot of small group time with people, working on their games, helping them talk through the fundamentals and get better at DFS. Doesn't matter what sport, NBA, NFL, MLB, hockey, golf, whatever. If I don't know the answer, I know who to point you to and get you on the right track, the winning track. Most of the stuff I can handle myself. We focus a lot on bankroll management. We focus a lot on contest selection. We can analyze contests and show you which ones are too top heavy and which ones are better for an even distribution of wealth, grinding cash games, playing leagues, MME stuff with mass multi-entry. We can do all of that stuff from top to bottom, depending on what you want to play and what you want to get good at. I'm a pretty well-rounded individual. I've won a lot of different contests, from big contests to small contests to cash game grinding stuff. And I'm telling you right now where I'm going is I think I'm going back to my roots. I think I'm starting to eat a lot more chalk. I'm finding that building with an ownership priority, high ownership players, is really starting to pay off. And last night, just to give you some of my VIPs got a sneak peek at where I'm going with this, and they saw putting 50 lineups in the big double up and what that's producing and how it's pushing 30 and 35 of the 50 lineups through the cash line night in and night out by focusing on ownership. And we'll break that down more as time goes because, again, it's in its infancy and coming full circle. MME stuff, I was generating leverage. I was trying to get to the top of those things. And yeah, we had our success. We won, one of the big nickels a couple of times. We placed well in NBA and whatever else. But I'm getting more of my lineups. We were early in the year, we had a video called Lock the Chalk, and we were talking about how NBA, the chalk tends to perform. And the contest or the sport is a little bit less volatile. So the chalk does do well because it's the obvious chalk. And with optimizers and with projections and with statistical research and things, everybody sees the same things and gravitates towards the same place. That's optimal. That's what you want to be doing in a lot of cases, especially in NBA. And then those slight pivots off of that are what win the tournaments. You get most of the chalk alone gets you to the money line, and then your pivots make or break your night. If your pivots don't do well, you fall below the money line. If your pivots do really, really well, you might end up taking the tournament down. It's just that simple. Little 1 and 2 and 3 player swaps make all the difference in the world. In baseball, maybe a stack swap. Instead of being on Boston last night, maybe you're on Cincinnati. Whatever the case is, sometimes that little pivot is what makes all. It's still chalky, it's still pretty optimal, but it's got a little bit better chances because it doesn't carry all of the ownership with it. You're not competing with every single person and their brother on the leaderboards. You've got the kind of got the territory to yourself, if you will. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this particular video by separating out some of the hot hitters and focusing on some of the key stacks that might make or break your night. But on the other side of things, I'm focusing on that ownership. And last night, if I'd played the 100-man leagues on FanDuel, wow, what a night I would have had. I put up 100 lineups that would have put in $100. I would have won $700. I would have had 11 victories in 100-man leagues. 11 lineups got in the top 1% and would have had a chance if they weren't competing with themselves or some other guy who got really lucky too. It would have been winning, had the strength of lineup capable of winning all of those tournaments. 6 in the top 2%, 1 in the top 3%, 4 in the top 4%, 2 in the top 5%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the way down. I'm sorry, not $700, 470. 100 in, 470 out. If you take it back over the last 2 days, or yesterday, day before yesterday, I put in 50 and would have pulled out 230. Add the 470 to 230. That's where you get the 700. 150 in, 700 out in 2 days. And I can show you how to do that by focusing on the right place. So we can take this 2 ways. You want to be a contrarian? I can help you. You want to be a chalk eater? I can help you. I'm going back to eating chalk. So that said, let's find some of these places in the MLB research station today and show you that process from front to back, because it just doesn't take long. I go to the FanDuel page. You can play DraftKings. It's fine. The stats don't change. What changes are the projections. First thing that I do is I go to the time arrow and I click filter and I knock off all early games. I think we start at 7:05. The 7 o'clock game may or may not be included. Let's go ahead and include it anyway, just to be sure. All of these stats are great, right? Everything from pitcher splits to whatever, but I focus right here on Chop Shop. Yes, named after me. Come down here in descending order, and let's let all of these high strikeout pitchers jump to the top. High strikeout pitchers rack up points. Finding those with high strikeout potential is key. And the way we find those is the guy has good strikeout stuff and he's facing a free swinging team that has a high strikeout percentage of their own. That makes sense. If I throw a high strikeout pitcher against a team that loves to swing and miss, I might have a good day. I'm going to have a better day than a contact pitcher and a team that doesn't strike out, right? And it's a sliding scale of everything in between. And this K-score lets us normalize what we're looking at. It is a DFS Army proprietary number. You only get it here. And once you find it, you can take the pitchers that are highest owned on the slate and then include a couple of these that the ownership might miss. Let's say somebody's only 6%, but he carries a huge K-score for the day. You're going to want to include him in your pitching pool just in case he pops off, right? He's a great MME type of pitcher, a great GPP type of pitcher. You may not want to hang your hat completely on him. You know, you may want to hide in the chalk a little bit more because, again, in my back testing, what I'm finding is the chalk heavily, even in baseball, heavily insulates your lineups. It leads them to victory. It really does. And the more we talk about this and the more we do this, the more I'll start showing you this, the more you'll become a believer too. And we'll flip the industry on its head where everybody's trying to play MLB contrarian. So we'll go contrarian to the contrarians. You know, he don't know what I know. He knows I don't know, right? We'll go that way and then we'll flip the slate on its head and we'll start getting on the other side of the coin again and demolishing the slates and the tournaments. But this is what you're looking for. High strikeout pitchers, Lamet, Ray, Peralta, Buehler. Not that Will Smith probably. Maybe a little bit of Brady Singer, Eovaldi, whatever. Whoever's carrying the ownership, you're going to want to key on them. I try to cut down to basically anybody over about 10% ownership is eligible for my lineups. And then those under that have high K-scores, over 500, usually up in here in the top, whatever the slate gives. Yesterday, we only had 2 guys over 500. Today, we've got 5 or 6. These guys would all get included as well, okay? So that's how you set up that part of the domination station. I don't need to look any further. I may do something like this where I sort by W score and bring the bad pitchers to the top, and these become my targets for my stacks because this is WOBA, and it is a team that hits for a high WOBA compared to a pitcher that maybe allows a high WOBA against. So if the guy can't get anybody out and he's got a team doing damage facing him, again, it's a double green light situation. It's a team that should do pretty well. So when I scroll over and I look at these higher WOBA scores on the slate, I'm also going to find high home run per nines, high Sierras, high whips, because bad pitchers are bad pitchers. They carry bad numbers. But the W score is just kind of all inclusive and just shows you right there in 2 seconds what you're looking at. So when I scroll over here, I might be looking not at the team because that's the pitcher. I'm looking at the opponent. And I find Toronto stacks, Washington stacks, Miami stacks, Houston stacks, LA stacks. Maybe some Tampa Bay stacks, Atlanta stacks. These are the stacks that I'm going to be wanting to focus on today. So if you need to, write those down. Or be a VIP and unlock the tool for yourself. But write these down. These are the stacks you want to focus on. We come down here to the hitters side. This hitters tab does the same thing. Knock off all the dudes that are not starting on your slate. Right? We said we'd leave the 7 o'clock guy in there. Cut the fluff. Now we'll come over here to the W score and Chop Shop. We'll sort that to the top again. I don't look at K score for bats, just W score. This is an individual batter's WOBA going up against the pitcher's WOBA allowed. And sometimes you get some pretty high numbers, right? And a lot of times they stack up on the same team because if that pitcher allows the high WOBA, anybody on that team with a high WOBA is in a good spot. So I come over here and I'm going to start seeing. Now we're looking at the team because we're looking at the players. We're going to see Washington. Washington's in a good spot today, just like we saw in the previous tab. You'll see some Atlanta, see some LA, see some Tampa, see the same teams because these are the pitchers carrying the high WOBAs, right? But now we can see maybe what bats we want to key on inside our stacks, which guys are maybe more prone to have an even better day than some of the others, right? But it really is more confirmation that what we saw on the other page works, okay? Now I know which batters to look at. But really what I want is I want the hot hitters. This is, again, something else that I'm going to show you that is proprietary to DFS Army. We use our Trends tab. And once again, we cut out all of the early morning guys, early day guys. They're gone. Now we've only got the main slate, 7 o'clock and beyond type starts, 8 o'clock for East Coast, whatever. I take the 14-day trends. Now, see, I'm looking at baseline numbers of 2 seasons. I'm looking at 30-day, 14, and 7-day numbers. This allows me to compare moving averages. And real quick, I'll show you something that I like to use as a moving average. I like to compare two to each other, a longer baseline, less volatile, flatter number, maybe last 10 games. Call it last 30 days on that tab I just showed you, and then maybe last 14 days in the more volatile section. So if the baseline is pretty steady and he's generally a 350 WOBA hitter, but his 14-day numbers spike and fall and spike and fall and spike and fall, I can time him. When he gets above his baseline, he's running hotter than he should. When he gets below his baseline, he's running colder than he should, right? And these are buy when it crosses on the upside and sell when it crosses on the downside ideas. Buying and selling and timing the market. That's what this does. Comparing 14-day to 30-day or 14-day to baseline numbers. A 422 and a 305, the Rezarena's running cold, right? 359 ISO over 2 seasons, and he's a 054, right? And he's cold. Don't play him. He's not producing like his salary is dictating. He's overpriced. However, I come down to somebody who is a 429. Who's that? Tatis LeMahieu. 429 over 2 seasons. Over 30 days, he was running a little cold, so his numbers are probably suppressed. His price has probably come down a couple notches, and boom, he got hot. He's hitting 406 over 14 days and 446 over 7 days. He's getting hotter. That tells me he's a buy signal. That tells me that, what is that, 3,500 is probably too cheap for him. He may be back to his $4,000 self. I look at his ISO numbers, and they were an 094 at 146 and a 250. Boom, they're coming on too. He's getting hot. If he's getting hot, the pricing algorithms trail production. So as he's getting hotter, his price is catching up to him, meaning that while you're out in front of that curve, out in front of that wave, you're getting value. You're getting an underpriced guy for his performance over the last 2 weeks. And that's key for DFS. So what do? 400 is an ideal number when it comes to WOBA. It's an elite number. So on hot, short streaks, I want guys that are hitting over 400. And in ISO, I want guys that are hitting over 200. That's the elite number for ISO. So once I've cut those guys down, look, I just trimmed my list. I don't have hundreds of guys to sift through anymore. All of these guys, these 20 guys, are over 400 for 2 weeks and over 200 ISO for 2 weeks. They are mashing the ball. WOBA weighted on base average tells you a double is worth more than a single. A home run is worth more than a double. That stands to reason that it's got a power element to it as well as an on-base element, right? Perfect for DFS. And ISO straight power. So by doing this with both weighted on base and pure power, I'm double dipping the power. Chicks dig the long ball. We're chasing home runs, but we're chasing gap shot doubles with men on base and everything else too. So here's what I'm after. I'm after these batters in my stacks. I'm going to go into my optimizer and I'm going to take these alphabetical guys and I'm going to put a 15% boost on all of them and pull their projections even farther forward so I get more of these guys. Rojas, Albies, Bogarts, Devers, Ramirez, Story, Mazzara, Alvarez, Walsh, Pollock, whatever. Trout fell off this list. He got cold. He's now overpriced. Doesn't mean he won't have a good day. It means that the tendency is for him to be a little overpriced right now for the production that he's bringing currently. So we can get off of him for a week or two and let him come back to hot, because he will. And we can play the other hot guys in the LA Angels lineup or the Boston lineup or whoever stacks we're keying on tonight. And we might use our MLB leverage stacks tool to do that. It'll show us projections, ownership projections, and who's generating more leverage for the slate. You key on those teams, and when they have good nights, you got the hot bats, and you've got a good lineup. It's that simple. And I did it all in 15 minutes, mostly talking to you about the fundamentals and strategy of the game. If you want more coaching like this, you come inside, dfsarmy.com. You look me up, Chapadong, and we'll talk. I'll make you a better player. Peace out, homies. This was Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.